He, as a young lawyer, hasn't had very much trial experience, but he does his best. And after Herndon is convicted, he appeals it. He's sentenced to 12 years on a Georgia chain gang. And Davis carries on the appeal and finally gets the sentence overturned in the Supreme Court in 1937. By that time, Davis has moved from being a loyal member of the black middle class, one of the Du Bois's talented 10th, and has instead himself become a communist. He said, "I entered the trial as Herndon's lawyer and ended it as his communist comrade." Davis later becomes editor of the Harlem Liberator, moves to New York, and begins a rise in political prominence that culminates in the 1940s when he's elected to the New York City Council, the first communist to be elected to political office. And of course, there are other intellectuals, Langston Hughes, the poem that was just read was part of his movement to the left. He didn't become a member of the Communist Party, but he worked very closely with the Communist Party during the 1920s. And Richard Wright would be another example of someone who actually becomes a member of the Communist Party, begins to write about race issues in class terms. But at the time of the beginning of the Depression years, for Du Bois, he decides that what the NAACP needs to do is not to abandon its basic reformist orientation, but to begin to emphasize the need to deal with the economic problems by developing a better relationship with unions. And he begins to write editorials such as Marxism and the Negro Problem that are part of his own evolution. He begins to take more seriously the Marxian notions and begins to be drawn to some of them. At the same time, he continues to reject the Communist Party's attitude that only a revolution is going to solve the problems of black Americans, and it has to be a revolution of black workers and white workers. Du Bois calls his talented 10th together for this conference at Amenia, New York, at the estate of NAACP board chairman Joel Spingarn. And he draws together some of the most talented figures, the up-and-coming intellectuals in the black community. People like Ralph Bunche, the political scientist, economist Abram Harris, and Charles Houston, the brilliant lawyer. All of these people were going to make their mark. E. Franklin Frazier in the academic world. E. Franklin Frazier would become the leading sociologist of black America. Abram Harris, one of the leading economists. Ralph Bunche, the pioneering political scientist. In fact, when I went to UCLA and studied history there, the history department is in the Ralph Bunche building because Ralph Bunche is a graduate of UCLA. Many of these younger intellectuals were also fascinated by Marxism.